Hello and welcome back to the Mid-Am Podcasts. It has been a minute, but we are back. We are your hosts. My name's Tyler Munns, and on the other side from the screen for me is my good friend Nathan Firmasu.
Hello. And on the other side of the screen from both of us,
that's right,
is a friend of the podcast, Kyle.
First returning guest.
That's right. And probably one of our first guests.
First returning guest.
And first returning guest. Yeah. Kyle, I'm ashamed to say this, but I always say reading when I say your last name. It's okay.
That's how it's spelled.
That's how it's spelled, right? But it's Reading.
It is Reading.
It's like the past tense of read, but then the present tense of ing.
I try to pride myself in being a good reader, and then I'm like, my family can't even spell, so we didn't even get our name right.
Ouch.
So it's whatever. No, I'm happy to be back. I'm one of the OGs. I feel like
you are the OG
from episode 1, I believe, and I've kept up with you guys for the most part because I feel like I'm really right there in the trenches with you both. And so it's been fun.
Yeah, that says a lot about you as a grinder that you've kept up with us.
Yeah, 100%. Because I will say, my wife said something to me the other day that cracked me up. She goes, "Yeah, I can't listen because I'm afraid I'm going to get the ick. I'm afraid that if I listen to you, that I'm no longer going to be attracted to you." And I was like, honestly, very fair. And I don't mind sharing that because she'll never hear this.
Right. Yeah. I think, Nathan, I don't know if your wife is similar, but my wife could care, maybe, I don't know if she could care less about my golf performance. She just basically gives me did you do good? And I'm like, that is such a loaded question. And the answer.
You have an hour? Because we got to hash that out.
Yeah. And, she doesn't understand the nuances, but she lends me a good ear. And sometimes I'm like, she doesn't even know what I'm talking about, but she is a sweetheart.
Yeah.
We love a supportive queen. Before we jump in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of the Mid-Am Podcast, or the fine folks and our good friends at Adele Golf.
Hello.
Not going to bore you with things that we've already said, but check out their putters, the Array series of putters right there. Yep, the Elder Wand.
The Elder Wand.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Nathan.
It's right next to
his putter. And then the irons, got a bunch of compliments today. That was told every shot I hit sounded flush, and most of them were because I was hitting the ball good, but a lot of them weren't, and they still sound flush. So the SMS irons, SMS Pro irons, SMS wedges, and the Array lineup of putters are all incredible. You can find out more at Adele Golf. That's EDELGOLF.com. Again, thanks so much to the fine folks at Adele Golf.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
You make me want to try them.
You should try, man.
The lefty options are a little sparse, I think, for the SMS Pro.
Yeah.
And that's the one I'm, whatever.
Yeah.
Leave us out.
But I know they're working on it. So
good. That's good. The putter, I do want to do a fitting just to see what my tendencies, the correct term, aim bias is, because I'm sure it's off.
Got to stay on message, Kyle. It's podcasting 101.
You can just get the laser cup and a little mirror and do it for yourself, and that at least will kind of give you the idea of hosel and alignment aid, generally about where your eye needs to go. So, but yeah,
that's important.
We can dive into that later.
We'll take that offline. So, hey, Kyle and I recently played some tournament rounds, and they went really, really well. So we thought it'd be a good idea for us to get on here and just kind of shower praise on ourselves for how well we played recently. No, they didn't go well. We both did not play to our potential, unfortunately. And that happens with golf, as we all know, and as we learned. And so I thought it would be, we thought it would be fun to, not fun. Fun's probably not the right word, but
it's an F word.
Maybe
it's an F
maybe
word.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe cathartic, maybe therapeutic, to kind of just talk through what we were feeling beforehand, and then, how we were feeling in the moment. And then now that I think both of us have had a little bit of time to decompress, how we view it and what we're going to take from it to move forward. So I guess we can start with Kyle. Kyle, you played in the Alaska State AM. Am I saying it? Am I
Yeah.
remembering
That's
that correctly?
yeah. I'm going to back up just for a second, because
Do
from
it.
the original podcast, we touched on this idea that I grinded super hard this winter, like stupid amount of
Mm-hmm.
time working on the swing. And I mentioned something like this year, tournament wise, was going to be a determining factor in how much time I put in this winter coming up. And we kind of made a joke, like, what if I do really well? Am I going to put in more time and all of this stuff? And honestly, I started off the tournament season better than I ever have before, like in any memory. Like, played the US Open qualifier. I was winning on the 18th tee, and I didn't know this at the time, and I doubled the last hole to lose to a kid from California who birdied it. And but I took away the positives. Like, I was like, I was in it. I was playing. Course conditions suck at that point in Alaska, but then me and my buddy won the state 4-ball tournament, and I'm like, okay, like, we beat two really good guys. We shot 15 under over 2 days. I'm like
Wow.
feeling on top of the world.
Yeah.
Then the mid-am comes, and I was like, I'm feeling prepped, pumped, and I go get 12 guys. I get last place, shoot at 85 on like a day where I wanted to cry almost about hole 15. I was like, this is so bad. And I mean, I know there's probably people listening that would give their left nut to shoot 85, and that's fine. But like, when you put in the time and the work and your scores are showing it, that feels like a 85 player shooting 120. Like, that's what
Yeah.
it felt like.
I want to jump in because I get that like that. I wish I saved, like, screenshot the messages that I get when I post something
Oh yeah,
about like shooting a high number for me, for me. And there's this, and I don't really understand why, because I feel as though people generally get like, there's, success is subjective. It's not an objective thing, right? Everyone has
sure.
their own definition of success. And so I get all these messages being like, dude, you just need to like stop whining. Like, I'd kill to shoot an 83 or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
my immediate reaction wants to be mean and be like, I don't care what you would kill to do. I don't hold myself to your standard. I hold myself to my standard. But I have to step back and say, like, it not still not caring about what their standard is, but like, what was my standard 3 years ago or 4 years ago, or whatever, wherever that was. It's like, would that person kill to do what I did today? Yeah, that person would. And that's like an opportunity. And I'm not good at it. I'm trying my best to like, uh, be kinder to myself when those things happen. And frame it as like, dude, Tyler from like 2019 would be freaking jazzed that he shot 83 from 7,100 yards on a pretty
Hmm.
tough golf course. And he felt like he played awful. Uh,
Right.
like, I would have lost my mind, but obviously, as you improve, your expectations evolve. And that's kind of like the curse or the scourge of a pretty damn good player that is just, it's like, God, I, I'm right there. I know what I'm capable of. I know where my ceiling is. And when you don't hit it, which happens so often in golf generally, but I feel like even more so with people who can't play every single day, spend hours and hours and hours every single day grinding. Um, like, the reality is, like, you got other shit to do. And, there are going to be really, really bad days. And unfortunately, and then when it's a tournament day, that's even worse because you're like,
Yeah.
you build
It's
it up in your
public.
mind.
Well, it's public too. I
Yeah.
don't think, well, two things I want to say about that. I don't think higher handicap players understand that getting better is not always joyous. Because I play in like leagues,
Hmm.
and I'm the lowest handicap in my league, and they're like, "Well, Kyle, like, it must be so nice to like make a, three birdies around or whatever." And sure, it is, but like, at the same time, Like for me we've talked about this, get incrementally better is 1,000 times harder than a guy coming from a 20 down to a 10.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get to the 1 to the 0 is you can't magically do it. It's going to take a ton of time and effort, and a 20 to a 10 can do that by just cleaning up course management almost. Like I'm being very general, but the idea that being a good golfer means you're always having fun and like hitting the ball where you want and all that stuff is delusion. And
Yeah.
I always try to tell people that, because I'm like, it's not fun all the time being a lower handicap, because 85 is out there, and what is anybody going to say when a 1 or 2 handicap shoots an 85? Is like, oh, he's a poser, whatever it is,
Vanity
and
cap,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't
And
know that
so,
it's ever like fun, maybe rewarding.
yeah,
fun. Fun is not the right word. Yeah.
Well, I think they see you like
Yeah.
hit good shots, and they're like, man, that looks awesome. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, but once you're used to hitting good shots and you have off days, it's incredibly frustrating not being able to just do what
Absolutely.
you feel like you do every time.
Yeah.
I was listening to an interview with Max Homa on No Laying Up one time, and I think he said something very similar where he's
Don't
like,
talk about our rival podcast.
that's right. That's true.
Don't talk about competition.
But Max Homa on Podcast Redacted, he was talking about something very similar where, part of at his level, especially, and I think it's one of the reasons Scotty Scheffler is so great, because he does have pretty good perspective on this, but like playing really good golf doesn't really excite those dudes. He's like, me going out and birding 4 holes in a row, like it just doesn't, like that's no longer exciting for me. It at one point in my life, it really was. And that's when I really, really loved golf. But now it just doesn't do anything. It does very, very little for me. And so like at the time I did not understand that. I was like, what do you mean? Like the fact that you could go out and you have the skill set to like fire a 62 or whatever, like that's gotta be fun. But I've made significant strides this year, and I can kind of see that, maybe not to that extent, but like, yeah, I mean, like for going out for me, like fired a 75 the other day from the 1-up tees. And I like last year, would have been ecstatic. This year I was like, I don't know. I missed a bunch of shots. I could have shot 72. Like still not playing the golf that I want to play. And I'm kind of starting to realize that like that feeling might never go away. Actually, it's probably never going to go away. I'm always going to be chasing, always going to be wanting to hit whatever 66 perfect shots. Well, that's probably never going to happen. And even if it did happen, I probably would find fault in at least one of them. So trying to figure out how to like navigate mentally around that so that it's more fun. That seems to be like the big question that I don't have an answer to.
Yeah, I think it's about at that level, and even just like amateur competitive golf, it's how often can you repeat the swing that you think you're capable of over the long term. It's kind of like being like a long-term investor versus a day trader. Like you understand there's going to be swings and you're in it for the long haul, versus the higher handicap is looking for like, I just know I'm one little swing change away from shooting under par. And it's like, that's not reality. It's a long haul that you have to get ready for, and you will be defeated. The pullbacks on the market will happen a lot, and you just have to get used to it. So I don't know if that's like a good analogy to it, but it's just
I
like,
think that's really good.
Yeah.
I think that's a really apt comparison, because the only way that you realize the gains is looking back at a 3 or 5 year trend. And like, that's where you're like, oh wow. Yeah. Like I am significantly better than I was. And that doesn't magically make you feel all really good. It's just kind of nice to like be able to observe that, and maybe put things in perspective. But like that, unfortunately that doesn't change your feelings most of the time, but
it's not
that's cool.
I think you just answered your own question earlier, though. Like because I was listening to you guys talk, and I wrote down the word slumps, because like pros talk about going through slumps all the time, or like guys that have like Homa, or I'm blanking on others, maybe Finau or something, who come up through like other tours, like builder tours, to, and like they could have the wild ups and downs of a week to week perspective and just be beaten down and deflated and probably quit. Or, they're in it for the long haul, and they're looking for these trends and weathering the slumps and these, tournaments that go well and tournaments that go poorly. And really they're looking for a general upward trend. And so, I mean, that then answers kind of our own questions of like, well, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with bad tournament play or bad rounds? And you can, we all have a tendency, I'm sure, to kind of get pissy and bummed out about a singular round or even a hole. But I think we have to listen to ourselves and zoom way out and say, well, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the last 100 rounds or whatever.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think I would say, Tyler, you inspired me to, after the mid-am, I knew it was very public, and I knew, I would get some jabs from, at least friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I expect that, and that's not a big deal. But I do know there are some people that are like, you shot a what? And I'm just like, hey, like, you remember when you played in that tournament? Because you weren't there. So, like, first off.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I was like, I want to put something out there, because I do know that I have a lot of golfer friends that have a higher handicap, but I'm always an open ear to like bounce ideas off of how to get better and like talk that stuff out, because I find that fun. And I just put out, a couple stories of, like, these are some things that you should do when you're in the thick of it, whether it's a mental breathing or some sort of visual cue to like take your mind off how it's going out there. And surprisingly, a lot of people in person were like, hey, that was super inspirational. I wrote some of those down. That's like really good. And it's so crazy, because I think that's what's lovely about golf is, even if you are shooting 100 in a tournament, like, or you're shooting 72 and you're upset, like, we all kind of go through the same, like, I'm nervous over the shot. I lost my swing. All the putts are rimming out. Like, there's so many variables that happen in not just a round, but especially like a 3 or 4 day tournament. Like, you will experience a lot of it. And one thing, like your birdie card, is you should have a bingo card for tournaments. Because we were talking about this. It's like, if you could, like 3 putt, 4 putt, triple bogey, double bogey, like, hit for the site, like, have all these bingo cards. Everybody puts in $20, and whoever gets bingo first, scoops the pot or something. Because you talk to everybody, and I almost don't even like talking about my round, because I feel like I'm like, man, can you believe that I like missed a putt or hit a bad shot, when I'm like, every single person in this tournament can relate to a bad shot, a good shot, whatever. We're all in the same like trenches the whole time. So it's just funny how tournament golf really makes you feel like you're the only one experiencing bad breaks or good breaks, and it's not the case.
Yeah,
we're all so incredibly self-absorbed.
Yeah,
we forget everyone else is so incredibly self-absorbed.
Oh, I know. And it's, like, oh man, I missed a, 3-footer on 7. It's like, well, I 4-putted number 9. Or, it's like, yeah, we get, it's like, it's a race to like the negative, like, sympathy card or something. But
yeah, absolutely.
yes. So we had the state am this past week. We played 2 different courses. One's a pretty tough layout, in the sense that it was probably playing like 6,700 from the Blues for the championship flight. But it's one of these courses that if you are off, it's got like 2 yards of rough. And if you're off, it's 90% of the time a lost ball. Like, you just can't, it's so thick. And so I've never seen so many provisionals from everybody. It was 6-hour round. Like, it's insane. And the winner of this amateur actually got to go to Hazeltine this next week. So there was
Oh,
kind of some
That's
incentive.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, the cards align, who knows? Maybe I could just like put together 3 good rounds. And luckily, everybody kind of crapped the bed for the most part. A couple guys shot pretty good. I think the winning score was 3 or 2 over for the tournament, which was pretty good for that course, the 2 days. But yeah, it was like opening day to go out and fire 82. I was like, man, am I just not a tournament player anymore? Like, I can't even string together like a good, 85 in the mid am. Played pretty good the weeks up to it. I think I had like a 69 in there. I felt
nice.
solid. And then to go 82 in a tournament, I was
Yeah.
like, there's a problem here. Like, what is going on? And I think the best recipe for me is just to almost forget about it and get out as playing as soon as possible without a tournament condition to like um, get amnesia about the past. And
Yeah.
went out the other night, like shot 33 on the front, and I was like, I can play, but I just didn't that weekend for whatever reason. And so now I've kind of forgot about it. Like, it's what it is. No one's going to remember for the most part, so it doesn't really matter. And you just move on. And so I know you've had some performances lately that
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I went into I was excited to like sign up for the OGA stroke play because I knew it was at Emerald. I knew it was going to be tipped at, like over
Mhm,
7,000 yards, which is something I've never done at a hard golf course. One of the guys that I know who's one of the best golfers that I know here in Oregon. Um, personally, I should say, um, he thinks that Emerald Valley is the hardest golf course in Oregon. That's his opinion.
mhm,
Um, and so, like, and I think there are a lot of people that would say like Emerald Valley is a damn hard golf
It's
course.
up there. It's got,
It's
I
tough.
mean,
It's
if,
tough.
yeah,
and
It's
where's it
really
at?
hard. So it's in
near
Eugene.
Eugene.
Well, just outside of
Eugene.
Eugene, it's in Crestwell. So it's where the Oregon
Yeah.
Ducks, their team practices. And so we played from the Duck tees, except for 2 holes. So it went from 7,200 yards to 7,100 yards. But incredibly tight driving course. Like, you cannot even if you hit the fairway, you're still blocked quite a bit. If you're not in the right spot, so you have to hit it long, you have to hit it straight. Greens are like very undulated, um, not super small, but not large. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just a tough golf course.
Mm,
And it was, I got it's because my first time playing it. I got the very last tee time on Friday, one of the first tee times on Saturday. And so like leading into it, I was like, I had little, very little expectations. Honestly, I was probably way too negative in my
What?
prep. Yeah, which is crazy because that's never me. I'm never negative. But I was like, I just knew that it was going to be very difficult. I knew that I am still pretty green when it comes to tournament stuff. And I just, I knew it was going to get kind of beat up. So, get down there Thursday, play a practice round. Don't really hit the ball super well. Don't putt
mhm.
very well. I decided to keep score just to see, what I would do. And I shot like an 82, but I was like, nothing really went right. I was like, God, dude, when I'm nervous and the greens are quicker, like this could get gnarly. And so, they put us out on the back nine to start, which is the much tougher nine of the two. It's, basically like the front nine's pretty gettable, and then you just have to hold on the back nine.
Sure.
And so, on the first day, I made 2 pretty bad bogeys to start, like very straightforward chips that I should have been able to get up and down. And just, I was like, okay, I'm nervous. And then I kind of started to get into the groove. So played 3 pretty well. And then I birdied 4 and I was like, all right, sweet. I'm cruising. And I got one more kind of bad bogey, with a 3 putt on that 9, but I turned it 3 over and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And I know that like the front nine is so like genuinely so much easier. It's like I was feeling really good. And then I par the next 4 holes in a row. I was like, damn, dude, I'm 3 over through 13. Like, and we're coming up on some, like a par 5. And I'm like, I've got some great opportunity here. Made a pretty decent bogey after giving myself a really long bunker shot on a long par 3. So I wasn't too mad about it. And then I just absolutely shit the bed really on 7, like a par 5 that I should have been able to like reach in 2 because I absolutely crushed the drive. And I just totally botched it. And I took a double, or no, I took a, or no, sorry, 6. I'm talking about 6. It's long par 5, par 4 rather. And I absolutely crushed the drive, but put me behind a tree. And I wasn't that bad of a drive, pretty decent drive, just put me behind a tree. And I, took double there. Then I bogeyed the next hole was a par 5, which was, such a great birdie opportunity. And then, and then I 3-putt on 9 to shoot an 80. And I was like, so frustrated with myself for 3-putting 3 of the last 4 holes. Just like, I was like, dude, like that's, that's where it is. Like I have these opportunities to do these cool things, like these special things, like, God, if I would have shot a 75, which I could have done, I know I could have done, with what I had left, like, and I'd have been like top 15 probably with the 75.
Right.
Really solid cushion going into the next day. I would have felt like I could have gone even lower because I made a lot of, just kind of silly mistakes that I would attribute it to nerves and stuff. So I was just really, really bummed, but I was exhausted too, because it was, 90 something degrees, long round, and it was very smoky. So it was holding a lot of the moisture from like the golf course. So it was humid and hot, and I was tired, and, and so I got up the next day and I felt like I was hitting the ball way better, but I shot an 83. And like, which is just wild, and I was playing super, super solid. I was, even through 5, and then just went, I think I went, bogey, 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 to shoot a 39 on the front, but I was like, okay, hey, we're doing okay. And then I just absolutely fell apart, towards the end. And I was tired and I was frustrated at that time. And like even in the moment, part of me could kind of compartmentalize and be like, dude, first of all, you were afraid, like in the back of your mind, you didn't say, but you were afraid you weren't going to break 90. Like genuinely, you thought you were going to completely fall apart, and you thought you were going to, throw up a couple 90s and absolutely humiliate yourself. 83 on 7,100 yards at a pretty tough golf course, not the end of the world. And last year, you couldn't have broken 100 probably, because you couldn't get your driver past 245 yards. So like, like you weren't doing anything. You weren't signing up for this. But then the other side of me, that egotistical side of me that knows what I'm capable of, is just like, dude, like you played horribly and you could have played so much better. And, people are seeing this, and you're calling yourself a 3 handicap, and you're going out there and doing this. Like, who do that like, I call it fraud mode. Yeah, it's like this fraud mode, like, I'm like, God, am I a fraud? Am I really as good as I think I am in my head? And, like the answer is, to your point, it's like you go out and shoot a 33, next, your next round out after firing an 82. And you're like, yeah, no, I am good. But it's really hard when the lights are shining. And it's especially hard when I, for better or worse, have put it in my mind that that's really all I care about. I really only care about playing well when it quote unquote matters. It never actually matters, which is funny to me. Like I say that, oh, when it matters, like it literally never matters because I don't have to rely on this in any way.
What's the purse like this weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Zero.
I'm in the negative. No matter what I do, I'm in the negative. So,
right. Yeah.
I've already, and from that perspective, I've already lost. So it's just like, but I've put it in my head, like, dude, I want to perform when I feel like I have to, not when it's just, I'm just out there and I'm shooting around. And so, my takeaway from it was pretty negative to start. I was just very disappointed in myself. But as time has gone on, I'm like finding, like the positives of, hey, I went out there and I did something that I was very uncomfortable with. The length of the course, the difficulty of the course, knowing that some of the, like literally the best players in the state were playing in this thing. Um, and, and I still went out there and I showed up. And then at the same time, the other aspect of it too is that, I post the live scoring and I open my phone after the round and I've got, 75 messages. And it's just like, some of them aren't very nice.
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't nice from friends are funny. And I love that. And I'm glad that like I get razzed by my friends, but like it's the random strangers who, want to tell me that, what they think of me. And for the most part, I don't really put much weight into it, but it does nag at you a little bit. You're just like, well, do they have a point? Should I be touting myself as someone who like has this goal of being a really good tournament player, has a goal of being traveling scratch, has a goal of getting down to a plus handicap and winning a trophy someday? Like, am I just kidding myself? And yeah, I mean, like that's a question that I have to kind of continually try to answer because I haven't really shown up. I accidentally played kind of well in the Oregon Am qualifier, mostly because I thought I was out of it and I just didn't care. And I put up a decent number, but like every other time I haven't done it. And so it starts to beg the question, you said it, am I just not a good tournament player? And I don't want, I don't want, I don't want to say yes quite yet. That may down the line, that may be true. I don't know, but I'm not ready to say, yeah, man, like you're robbing yourself of all of the joy of this, which is supposed to be fun, by putting these expectations on yourself, and you're just not going to get there. And I guess you kind of, unfortunately, I think every player who has these types of aspirations, they have to know that like that might be one of the possibilities. And you have to figure out how to deal with that.
Push through that. Yeah. To the hater thing, it's funny because I think it's relatable in like for instance, like you guys have a podcast now. You guys are doing these things that are putting yourself out there in the public eye, and I truly believe there is a large population of people that do not want to see others do well. It's just innate stuff like that because for instance, like I know you've lost a bit of weight. Congrats on that. Like that's awesome. Like getting healthier. There's something about that, and I even suffer from this myself. Is when I see somebody making changes that I know are positive or bettering them, I want to hate on. Like I don't because I think
I understand.
self-aware,
Yeah.
but initially it makes me like, oh, like they're doing better than me and I need to knock them down a peg because I am not.
Yeah, it's a conditioning thing. I think it's we are conditioned to I don't know, you want to call it modern American culture or whatever. I'm not well versed enough in like global culture to say if this is like a strictly an American thing, but there is this like internalized competitiveness that I'm glad you said that because I feel the same way. And I feel like the biggest piece of shit when I see someone like doing something wonderful with their lives. And my kind of gut reaction is to be like, like that was like, how dare they, better their lives, like, because I think part of it is one, this competitive thing, like we want to be the best, but I think the other aspect too is like, it breeds this insecurity. Like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like maybe it's not even that I'm not the best, but maybe I'm the worst,
Right.
like
Well, and
because
it
I'm not
also,
doing what they're doing.
right. And it makes, well, I think it definitely, yeah, it turns the mirror on yourself of like, am I doing enough to like make myself better? Because I think we all kind of strive to like either be fitter, faster, more athletic, like all the things that we want to be better at. And it's like I've tried to like change my mind a bit more, because like a good example is like when you go to the gym and you see somebody really heavy working out. My mind used to be like, what are they doing here? Like, why are they at the gym? And then I was like, hey, idiot, they're at the gym because they're
Yeah.
trying to change something. And it, like, you should be, like, in a sense, building them up because they probably need that in a sense. And that's a very, like, shallow, like, look at it because it's obvious what the case is. But most of us, like, when we're trying to do something, whether it's get better at golf or start a business or whatever, people just feel the need to like, I don't know, give you a dose of reality. I think is
Yeah.
what they like feel like they're doing is like, you're never going to like get there because of XYZ. And I think it's really just inside look into how their mind works.
Oh,
They're not doing
it's
it.
totally projection. I mean, some of them even tell
Right.
on themselves. I think this one guy, he was like, have you ever considered that like, this is it, this is as good as you'll ever be and you're never going to get there? I did that and it made me a lot happier. And I was like, wow, man, you like in very quickly, you went like from projecting to like tattling on yourself essentially.
Right.
And so I just responded, I'm like, hey man, I'm happy that you have accepted a certain standard for yourself. I don't have to accept that standard for myself. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I can strive to be better, and I may never get there, but I am not going to stop trying because you told me that you aren't willing to try. That has no
Yeah.
bearing on my willingness to do the work that I think is necessary to try to like level up. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's funny that like yeah, you said that. That's such a an astute observation of like when people
It's
see other
It's
people
human
like
nature.
yeah,
Yeah. I truly think we all suffer from that because I would be lying if I said I didn't feel the same way. I think there's a self awareness you reach eventually when you're like, hey, I'm being a piece of garbage right now, trying to tear or looking at somebody that's doing more than me. It's the old. I don't remember the quote exactly, but I put it on there. But it's like you'll never receive hate from somebody doing more than you, kind of idea.
yeah,
um there's not, freaking, somebody on the corn ferry is not taking their time to tell you like, hey
nope.
Tyler, like why are you even doing this? Like they don't have time to worry about that stuff because they're trying to better themselves for the most part. Like I'm sure there's exceptions, but
Yeah, I mean it expands into just this. It's like when someone who's like a 12 handicap who's hitting the ball pretty good this week decides that he's now Chris Como,
yeah,
and he's going to jump in your DMs and tell you what you're doing wrong.
your ulnar
It's
deviation is getting a little
yeah,
wild
right?
over there.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like it's this thing, yeah, where people um they feel like they have to be right and they have to tell you how you're wrong,
Yeah.
in order to like in order to feel something that they know they're missing out on because they're seeing you do something that's great. And yeah, like um
No, that's not correct, actually. Um,
Why would you even say that?
let me
That's so
tell
dumb.
you,
yeah.
I'm not trying to do better myself at all. I'm drinking root beer and eating Cheetos and sitting on my
Living the
couch,
dream.
and I'm a
Yeah.
16 handicap.
Yeah.
But let me tell
I
you
uh
but
what.
but
I do think it's social media in a lot of ways because I have a
Oh,
hard time like
absolutely.
picturing this happening 25 years ago, right? You'd have probably the pro that like tells the jokes about the guys that are, the old guy at the club that's giving them swing advice or something. But nowadays, I think what we see with the highlight reels of everybody hitting at 350 and everybody's a plus two and everybody's this or that. it's created this facade that like we're all looking for somebody to like show a crack in their armor and be like, oh, you're not actually what
Yeah.
you're portraying on social media. Um, because like that's what I find myself doing is like I'll see my golf feed and I'm just like, there's no way that guy's scratch. And I'm like, but why do I care? Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I'm not going to send him a message and be like, you're not scratch. Like, the only people that I will call out personally, and it's only happened to me recently, is sandbaggers.
Yeah.
Playing in,
Oh,
playing in
I
some
heard,
net
I heard
tournaments.
about this. I heard about
ugh.
this
I,
from a
I told,
mutual friend. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I
I was mad
was
for you, and I
pissed.
was like, I'm so far removed from this situation, and I am like heated.
I went the full like gin lookup. And I was like, man, I'm gonna send this to the guy on TikTok that does the calling out the
Oh
sandbaggers for the
yeah.
like club championships. I was like, I'm not gonna be petty, but that pisses me off. Like, you don't. Speaking of how hard tournament golf is for almost every single person. Um, like Tyler, you're sitting at a 3-ish right now. You said
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
two or whatever. So like the idea that you would go out on a tournament and shoot a 66.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not possible. The likelihood though is pretty astronomical, like in
Which
terms of
is, it's
I
like
didn't
from statistical, like from a statistically significant standpoint, it's
strictly
Yeah.
statistical, yes.
basically not possible.
Might happen once,
Right. And to do it
Maybe,
back
but
to
maybe.
back to
back
back days.
and do one stroke better your second day
Mm.
is almost like I don't know. You might as well tell me Santa's not real. Like that's just not like like it's so unbelievable like that like nobody said more, but I'm like this is cheating. Like this is straight up cheating. Like there's
Yeah.
no way around it. And so but anyway, sandbagging is kind of where I think I would draw the line because that shows intent in my head
Yeah. Oh,
to
100%.
cheap versus I don't care if somebody says they're better than they are and they're not. Like that doesn't do anything to me, but vice versa when there's money and stuff on the line. That's a
Yeah,
little different.
that's cheating. The other
Yeah.
one's just
Yeah,
stupid.
Yeah.
right.
It's like that's stupidity, which is like,
Um,
hey, if you want to be dumb, that's fine. Yeah,
right.
that doesn't affect me in any way. That's why it is interesting to me that people take the time. But I think we've explained it that it's like it's more of a projection of their own insecurities. But like, yeah, why would you care if you don't think that I'm as good as I say that I am? Like it doesn't have any bearing on you because we're never gonna meet. Like you just this message you
Right.
sent me guaranteed that. Um,
And
and even if we
Yeah.
did, like you would just,
Well,
potentially you'd beat me, like
and
there's no
also,
lose scenario for you.
yeah, and
right.
also like you literally can't make the statement to someone of like, oh, you're never gonna do that because you
Right.
don't
Right.
know. Like something in this person, their life might change, their situation might change, or maybe they actually put in all the work and it happens to work out for like you don't know. So like you can't even tell yourself that though, which is something I kind of have been waiting to find a good way to like say to Tyler is like you you can't the whole like fraud thing. I get that like that's how you feel and that makes
Mhm.
sense, but also like you don't know. You
Right.
don't know if
Yeah.
you're not you can't say I'm never going to put it together in a tournament because also like this is your first season of legitimately like putting yourself into
Yeah.
that situation a
Right.
lot. And like
And
that's
I think that's just
okay,
my
one
ego.
season.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And so it's like you
I
can't
truly, it's just
know.
like, dude, like,
Yeah.
it's funny. I think, people are like, dude, you're so hard on yourself. You're so negative. I think I think the opposite is true. I think that I am so damn good that I shouldn't be doing these things. When the
Mhm.
reality is that it's like golf is really hard.
Yeah.
Tournament golf's even harder. And,
Yeah.
and then you add into that the variability of, how you play plus bad breaks plus XY, course conditions, like all these things, like dude, yeah, man, like to have any sort of expectations that you could do any better on the day is just, it's just egotistical. And I need to go like take some mushrooms and, kill my ego.
I did just play a whole tournament on microdose mushrooms. I had to
Okay.
try
I need
it.
to, was it, I mean, dude,
It wasn't this tournament. It was the last one.
what? No,
My buddy,
okay. I want to know more about that because I've been so incredibly interested because I've had two people who I know are good golfers suggest it. Like, dude, go microdose and play
yeah,
golf, and they go, it'll really change the way you look at some stuff. I'm like, man, yeah. At this point,
yeah,
I'm sitting next to a broomstick putter. I'm absolutely willing to microdose if it
I'm
means I play
trying.
better golf.
They kind of go hand in hand, yeah. No, my buddy gave me some, and I was like, man, I mean, Nate knows that. Like, I'm not like a big drug guy at all. Like, I
Yeah,
don't smoke
You're
or do
not a
anything.
big drug guy, just a little drug
I'm
guy.
a little drug guy.
a micro. Some would say a micro drug guy.
I don't know if that's what I want to lead off with. I'm a micro guy.
That'll be the tagline. Kyle, micro drug guy. Ready.
Yeah, that's my head cover is micro. No, he gave me some, and like we went out and played the skins game before the tournament, the 2-day tournament, and like that's when I shot 69, and I was like, dude, I might have to roll this over. Like, I think I didn't really have, I maybe had like a beer or two, but there was a point where it was like apathy took over. I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a skins game, obviously, so you don't really care that much anyway. But
Yeah.
I was just like rolling the rock and like just hitting shots, and it felt so um like the, I felt like life was so minuscule, like it didn't matter. Like that kind
Yeah.
of euphoric feeling of like, this is so great, we're out here. And so I was like, well, I got to roll this over tomorrow, see if it carries over. So I took some in the morning and played fine. Like I think I shot 74 or something, but like, and I was like, well, I got to do it Sunday too, just to, make
Yeah.
sure I get a
For
good trial
science.
period in.
Yeah.
And it was definitely nice because it felt like it took about, I think, 45 minutes to kind of like feel much, but you never trip, right? Like in the microdose
Right.
world, like it's more of like just I'm cool, like I'm chill, like I'm not worrying about a whole lot. Which was nice because I think you suffer from you're probably you're probably an intelligent guy. I don't know like your SAT scores or anything, but like you suffer from probably overthinking. And it's like the idea of golf,
Just
somebody
micro levels of overthinking.
micro thinking. Well, I mean I know you do that, but like I don't think that's probably the one aspect of your life that you probably overthink. Like
Correct.
just
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know.
No,
But
you're absolutely right.
so the idea of, and I think we've all kind of know this and stuff, is like and Bryson, or I think it was on Grant Horvat's video with Phil was talking about this, and he was said you can either be super smart like a Bryson or even a Phil is pretty intelligent guy and have this skill set to like be there, but you also have like the DJs who don't seem to have a lot kind of going on upstairs that like
Right.
I've heard rumors like that guy doesn't even know how far he hits some of his yardages because his caddy kind of, like I don't know if that's true or not, but like this idea of like if you're gonna be, there's a fine line of being like overthinking when your skill set doesn't match that, because I think that's easy to do, is like I got to get to this position, that position, whatever my swing, or oh, is my wrist blah blah blah. Like we should be dumber in a sense to play better golf.
Yeah.
um I just I'm trying to find out a way to get there. Like I don't know how to like shut my brain off in a sense where I don't analyze and think about everything. And you seem like you were saying you were very cognizant of like where you were score wise in that tournament. Like, do you
Mhm.
always know where you're at, plus or minus
Yeah,
stroke wise?
that's a problem for me. And Nathan and I have
Yeah.
talked about this a bunch.
I always know.
I
don't need a
even
scorecard.
Yeah, even if I'm like, oh, I'm not keeping score, I know exactly where I'm at like all the time. I cannot turn that off. And so I've like been like game theory, like in my like thought experiments of like, okay, how do I navigate around that so that it's like, okay, I know that that's going to happen. I know that I have a general idea of where I am level, to par, but like figure out a way for that to be something that's just happening in the background that I don't like key in on. I know it's there and just let it be there. And don't put mental energy into not knowing what my score is. Just put my mental energy into anything else, to know. And so one of the things that like literally 2 days ago, one of my friends, Todd, actually, that we interviewed on the podcast, he was like, dude, like what would happen if you didn't have like these micro data points that you keep track of, like for all the strokes gain stuff? Like, have you done that recently where you just don't keep track of that stuff? And I was like, no, like I haven't. And he's like, I bet you if you stop doing that in 30 days, you drop like a stroke off your handicap. And I was like, bet, I'll do it. And so, I'm still doing like fairways, greens, putts. But even I'm probably going to stop doing that this weekend when I play in a match play event. And I'm just going to be like, I'm going to write my score down because I got to write my score down. But like, I'm not going to care if I hit X amount of greens. I'm not going to care how many putts I've had or even how many 3 putts I've had, because like I've been doing that and clearly it's not changing a lot of those stats. Like I'm going to hit the ball however I hit the ball, and I'm going to just try to figure out how to get it in the hole. And I think like trying to turn the the statistical analysis aspect of my brain and thinking of things of like in terms of strokes gained, I think that will be one way for me to navigate around like, well, I know what my score is, but like, I don't know what that means relative to like a scratch player, which is obviously my North Star, because I'm not keeping all these other stats and I'm not like beating myself up because I just had my third up and down inside 25 yards that I didn't convert. That stuff really starts to weigh on my head and gets like, that becomes such a point of emphasis that I think it just bogs me. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think it just bogs me the hell down, and I can't get out of that way of thinking.
I mean, I think we hear this like dichotomy a lot in sports psychology, or even just like if you listen to some of the best golfers or just professional athletes in general. Like there are a lot of professional athletes who are super smart, and they also, though somehow not turn it off, but they use that when they need to use it, and then they don't when they don't. Like Bryson's been really, I mean, recently, like, okay, people say Bryson is very smart, and yeah, he likes to know things, and he's kind of nerdier about all the aspects of golf.
Sure.
But he's also been, like, I saw videos of him recently saying like, I only care about the feel when I'm playing. Like, I don't pay attention to the situation. I don't pay attention to the course. I don't even really look at the ball. Like, I'm just trying to go internal,
repeat the swing,
and just repeat the feel of the motion. And it's like, so he throws all of it out when it's time to perform. He does all that BS before he pulls a club, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. But somehow he's able to make this switch of just saying like, whoop, and now I just am like a dumb, like, do the motion kind of.
Yeah.
And
going into a dumb state. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, for me, this season is like, I've been trying to like iron out processes, and that was one of my goals. And really that was the objective of figuring out my processes, is like, how do I get myself to make that switch? Because I know I've known for a long time, like, I can hit the shots. I have a good enough swing. I mean, I've taken lessons from, I'm working with a guy now, but I've taken lessons from a couple of other people over the past 3 or 4 years who are good players. One of them was a world long drive champion, and like, they've all told me like, what's your handicap? And I tell them, and they're like, your swing is way better than that. And I'm like, well,
yes,
thanks. That doesn't mean anything because I still suck. But, and so I've had this like frustration of this disconnect of like, okay, I'm good enough to be at one level, but I can't get myself to make the switch when I'm playing golf. And so that's been kind of like why I made these goals at the at the last winter when we started this thing, and I still haven't figured it out because it's hard.
Yeah.
I think like
No.
if you could figure this out, then this is the stuff that if there were a secret to golf, right? This would be it in my mind, is like, how do you get yourself to that space? If there were a secret to any,
I
elite athletics, I think that
that goes back to what Kyle was saying earlier. It's like at this level of golf, when you are as good as we are, it's those things. It's those little tiny incremental things of, shifting your mentality, like reframing expectations, redefining success. Like those things, like become so much more important. Whereas, there's like this sliding scale of, as you're, if you're 20 handicap, like most of your issues are mechanical. Most of your issues are you cannot hit the shots, and you need to learn how to hit the shots. And then as you get better, like, and like their issue is not, oh, am I confident enough, or am I too left brain or too right brain? Like that does not matter, because they can't, they can't get their 6 iron off the ground.
Repeat a swing. Yeah.
Right. And then as you get better, it's like, I can't hit, like I can't flush a 9-iron any better than I flush this 9-iron. Like that's it. Like I can't hit it any better than that. Okay. Well, it still went long and it still led to a bogey. All right. So then what happened? Like what was the issue there? Well, A, I didn't trust the yardage. B, I didn't maybe do enough preparation to understand, oh, this is a jumper lie, or like long is so dead. I'd much rather be sure. Let's just try to hit a hard pitching, like my preparation wasn't there. I didn't trust myself. Like it's something I've been dealing with recently, as my skills have kind of outpaced my trust in myself. I have these scenarios where I still get trapped into this hole of playing for a bad strike. And so like today, I played today, and I had, we played the green tees, super short par 5. It's like 470 and it's downhill. I piped a drive. I had 150 yards in, and, but the wind was in and the pin was way up. And so I was like, well, really this thing can go 165 to center of the green and be good, because if I'm short, it rolls all the way down and it's a tough chip. And I'm like, and the wind's in. So I'm like 175, play 175. It's going to get there. And so I was like, well, I'll hit 7-iron, because I know 7-iron, like there's no way that 7-iron can go long, because I'm amped up a little bit. I probably won't hit it that well. Hits what it was equivalent, I think, of about 180 yard 7-iron, out of the fairway, hits the back of the green, bounces over into the hazard. And I made bogey, and like that is not preparing correctly, understanding that, like, even if I don't want to be short is not in the hazard. Short is just a tough chip. Number two, like my 7-iron is a 170 club now. Like that's just what it is. I tend to not want to believe that, because last year I don't think I could hit my 7-iron 140 yards. And like 3, like thinking that I'm not going to hit it good.
Right.
When
so you don't play for the 170 yards because you don't think you'll strike it that. Yeah.
I don't think it could go that far, because I still don't think it can go that far. And then B, I'm not going to hit it good. And it's like, well, at a certain point, dude, Ty, you gotta start believing that you're going to flush the ball. At a certain point, you got to trust that, like, if you're continuously seeing the ball flying over the green over and over and over and over again, like, at what point do you trust that, like, this is the yardage, you're going to hit a good shot. And like, if you do hit a bad shot, just accept that as like, that was a bad shot. That was a poor strike. And I came up a little bit short, but that's okay. Rather than flushing one into the hazard over the green, where you should have had a pretty decent look at eagle. It's like that kind of stuff that's all mental. And that's the part of the game that I'm like, I haven't figured out. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
how to make that switch in my brain to really focus on the mental and say like, that is what I need to work on the most. I don't need to go practice. I mean, I need to practice putting, obviously, but like
Sure.
pretty much everything else, I don't really need to grind on that. And it's hard to make that switch in your brain when forever I told myself the reason you're bad at golf is because your swing is not optimized. It's not good. You don't hit the ball far enough. Well, that's not true anymore. I hit the ball plenty far.
Yeah.
How, how do I, how do I take advantage of that?
It sounds like, and I mean, this is just what, like listening to you talk, it seems like you kind of operate from fear.
Yes.
Like fear is like the big driver. And I remember there's a podcast I listened to like years ago that just talking about like Rory and people in when they're watching them on Sunday come down the stretch. Maybe Rory's not a great example right now, but you you don't see them lose their swing or anything, but they still can hit bad shots, and it's all based off of tension and fear, which causes tension in your body. And it kind of sounds like what you're describing is something that like I've really been working on. For example, first tee jitters and stuff like that is that's a real thing when you're passionate and you get nervous. And once you get off the first tee, I feel like a lot of us kind of like are embarrassed to like maybe make a bogey or a double because the three guys you're with are going to be like, oh, this guy
Yeah.
sucks.
Oh, 100%.
It's like,
yeah.
And so like that is kind of just like playing in a fearful state, which I kind of also feel like is why you're so cognizant of like your score is because
Yeah.
you're trying to be so careful to not embarrass yourself in front of in front of everybody in a sense that you put out there. And I find myself like, because I agree with you, I'm usually really good about knowing within a stroke or two of where I am during a round. But there's been a few rounds where I have completely forgot where I'm at in terms of
Yeah.
score. I just know that I'm in a zone and I try to not mess with it. I don't try to like look at a scorecard and be like, oh,
Right.
I'm this many over. And I feel like a lot of that comes from really getting in the mode personally is like when I want to make birdies. And I know that
Yeah.
sounds weird because that's always our goal, like at the end of the day. But like I try to put myself in a really aggressive mode after generally off the tee. Like I wouldn't say I play super aggressive off the tee, like trying to drive par fours, but like put myself in position. And if I have a shorter iron in my hand, like I'm trying to make birdie, like, and that's my focus. And if I make par, then I move on and I just try to keep this birdie mode kind of engaged. And I don't know, that's just personally what I kind of use is to like get away from numbers, just think about birdies or whatever it is for you. Maybe,
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know how to describe it. Like,
It's like this
I think I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
What?
Well, like without being
Scramble
crazy,
mentality. Like when you play in a scramble tournament, you're all you care about is just like, let's go deep. And you tend to hit better shots and, we're more aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, that obviously is like statistically doesn't play out for you as like trying to maybe like for most people, like if you tried to play that aggressively all the time on your own ball, it wouldn't pan out. But there's something to the freedom of like assertive, aggressive, like go get it type of play.
Well, it's like the chase. It's you're running downhill, you're
versus
you're chasing it.
Yeah, it's like throwing sand instead of trying to hold sand. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it also maybe it's not the birdies that's important. It's that I've pivoted my mindset away from like almost defensively trying to make par.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I got bogey. Oh God, now I'm +1. Now I got to make a birdie to get that back. And
well, it's like you're
like almost aggressively.
Well, it's like you're going. It's like where par becomes the worst case scenario. You're going into a mindset of like, no, par is the worst case scenario here. Like, like I know par is happening. I'm trying to avoid that. Instead of like I know, I know bogey's happening. I'm trying to avoid that. That's where I get in. It's like if I miss a green, and I've tried to start to get better about like if I miss a green, being like just telling myself even if I don't believe it's true, the first words out of my mouth are I can get up and down from there. That I just have been trying to like just say it out loud. I don't, it's not true all the time.
That even lines up with some stuff that, is popular or not popular, but like is talked about in sports psychology, where it's like, don't think about or look at the thing you want to avoid, look at where you want to go. So instead of being like, I don't want to screw up, or like, I hope I don't I'm trying to play to protect against the bad thing, just play for the good thing.
Yeah.
And like put your attention and your focus on that.
Yeah, I think they say that like, the brain can't really comprehend like negative space.
The word.
So,
yeah.
So like,
don't, know, and
yeah,
sure.
Like don't go in a bunker. Here's go in a bunker.
Don't think about white elephants.
Yeah. And I think I only bring that up because like you seem to be having some putting woes right now, just following your story, right? And I feel like there is no worse part of your game to have like tension and negative thoughts than in putting.
It's all confidence.
And I mean, I hate to say it because I mean we all go through like putting woes, but like that is the one thing that a toddler can technically do. Like
I know, yeah.
Oh, no. Before I've insulted you, I'm just saying like the mechanical stroke of a putt, is not. There's not rocket science, but it's the hardest at the same time.
No, this is funny you say that because I just got one of those the air brake putting mats, and I texted Tyler because he's been whining about his putting for what feels like months now. I got it out of
it has been months.
I got it out of the box and I set up like a 2 degree, a 3 degree. I don't even know because I didn't use the app, but a cup and a half left to right break, and my 7-year-old, she threw down the ball and like ran off 6 in a row.
Yeah,
no issue, straight out the box. And she's never made a putt over like a foot before, and she's just like, "Oh, this is fun." And so I texted my wife. I was like, "Hey, cool, my daughter just did this."
My wife might be the best putter in the world. We go do mini putt a lot, and like earnestly, she whoops my ass. Like I try so hard to beat her, and because I've never done it.
I've take your broomstick to Bullwinkle's.
I've 100%. I brought a spider when I was putting with a spider. I brought my spider to mini putt because I wanted to beat her. I've never done it. Never beat her.
Oh my gosh!
But like, she can't get the ball off the ground. With anything other than with anything, she can't get the ball off the ground. But like, she absolutely destroys me in putting, and like, she rams 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot putts in the back of the hole. Like there's no break. She doesn't read putt. It's just like a straight line, like that. Baby. Yeah. So it's just straight line back of the cup every time. I've never seen her miss like a 3 foot putt, and I'm just like, God, I want that. That's what I want. Well,
she doesn't have any scar tissue either. It's different when you've seen enough putts miss. But please tell me when you go to this place that you guys should put together a video where you bring out the broomstick and then you come out.
I'm gonna bring broomstick and I'm gonna have Nathan caddy for me.
Yeah.
Oh no! And then you need to do the max
putts.
The max Homa aim point, the squat, like all the way up.
Get down Camila Villegas with the spider.
Yeah. I would love that. What is this guy doing?
That would be fantastic.
That would actually be a really like we come out. It's supposed to be this thing, and then Nathan just comes out in the jumpsuit.
Oh yeah,
like tour bag with like 14 putters,
full staff bag.
Yeah,
full staff bag, 14 putters.
2 degree or 3 degree or 4 degree.
I need a yardage book. Does Putt View? Do they?
Putt View doing the putt? Yeah, that would be awesome.
Oh man, that'd be really funny.
No, I 100% agree. It's like the mentality of trying, or and I mean, it goes back to like putting out of your mind. What does Rotella say? He's like, like you should be going into the putt trying to make the putt. Like the idea of like, I'm just gonna lag this up there is like not really a good strategy. It's like you can say, oh, I want to make this putt and just barely drip it in to get yourself an idea of like the right speed. But like this idea of like, oh, I just want to get it close. It's like, well, my brain can't really comprehend like I want to get it close. Like my brain can understand like I want to make this putt, but then my mind just goes into I don't want a 3-putt. And
something
then my
something I do with that is I change the parameter, kind of like I redefine what it means to make the putt for myself. So like if I get to like 30 feet out, I pretend the cup is like 6 inches or 8 inches or whatever. Like, and if I get it inside of that space, 2 feet, whatever, if I get it inside of that, then I made the putt. Like I'm trying to make it, but I'm not trying to be so like, because I really struggle with aim small, miss small. It makes me super tense. I get really guidey and steery, and it makes everything worse. So I kind of almost broaden things out. A lot of times when I'm putting, I'll look at like, what's the lowest line I could see this going on? What's the highest line I see this going on? And then I've got this range. And my idea of making the putt then is just rolling it somewhere through there, and it has a chance, right? So like, especially with lag putting, when you're like, I really don't want a 3-putt. It's not, I feel like trying to aim at something when you're 40 feet away that's the size of a cup is almost too small for me, and it makes me really tense, and I end up getting kind of lost in it, and I usually hit a poor putt. But if I aim at something that's like a 3-foot circle, and I just pretend like, man, that's the cup, right? And I'm not trying to avoid a 3-putt at that point. I'm still trying to make it, but my cup, my success definition is different, and it's broader, and it's not so. I keep
granular.
It's not. I get it. Frees me up though, than to not be so myopic on something so tiny that's so far away. It's like really that's beyond my
Tyler,
skill
Is it your stroke in the sense like is the ball rolling? It's not a stroke issue.
I don't think so.
It's just a mental.
I roll
because that's one thing I try to work on, especially with putting, is I try to think when I've gone back to using a line on my putter now or on the ball because I was away from that forever because my eyes were not doing so good. I just try to think in my head that I want to roll the sexiest putt. Is what I try to do is I want to see that line rolling
End
great.
over end.
And it's like, and it's like, if I do that, I accept the fact that realistically, not even, I don't know, 20% of putts are going to drop within, 15 feet, especially on our greens up here.
Right.
That like, as long as I hit a sexy putt, like I feel like I did my job. And it's weird when you kind of move away from the results oriented, because people are like, oh man, you rolled it really well. I can't believe you missed that. And it's like, it's not supposed to really go in.
They just weren't falling.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started doing that, I felt like weirdly, more putts start dropping because you're just putting a good stroke on it, and then you're just letting fate kind of, as long as you're lined up and all that, mechanical stuff. But as long as I just roll sexy putts, they're going to go in eventually.
That's one of my favorite things with putting that I've heard a professional say. Like I used to watch a ton of YouTube videos of like Ben Crenshaw or like Jackie Burke Jr. and these old dudes who just rolled the rock. And it sounds like I say it now when I tell people this, and I realize how stupid and like, well, duh, it sounds. But for whatever reason, when I heard it this one time, it just like hit me different. And there's some interview with Ben Crenshaw, and somebody was asking him about it, and he goes, I just like to see the ball roll.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So this guy who's arguably one of the better putters in history of golf, he just likes to see it roll. It's like, oh, cool. And he started paying attention to how the ball rolls. And I mean, I would encourage a lot of people to do this because it's kind of cool. The things you notice, like sometimes people will hit it when like a sexy putt to me is the one where it looks like it's making more revolutions than it is traveling distance.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's rolling too much for how fast it's rolling. And it's like, it's almost Velcroed to the ground. And I love that. Like that thing is rolling versus a lot of times you'll see putts that kind of look like they're rolling really slow and they almost kind of look wobbly and they kind of like they look like a knuckleball or something.
Yeah.
And like just watching the quality of the roll of the ball over like an 8-foot putt, like probably not. I don't know how many people do that. Maybe I'm just weird. But like clearly some people do it and some people get a lot of benefit out of it. And I, I think that that's kind of a cool thing to be fascinated with. And when I started doing that, I started making a lot more putts or just being a better putter. Like I am almost never like mad about my putt, like, or my technique or my whatever. Like sometimes I'll mishit it, sure. But like, I always know if it doesn't go in, it was because I just didn't hit the right line or the right speed. I'm not like mad about like, oh, why is my putting so bad? It's like, no, I rolled that thing.
Yeah.
Well, and even if you can have the right line and the right speed and still not go in. Like it's just that I think that's another mental thing of just accepting that like you can do every single thing right on a putt. And I mean, I think those when they use the stimp meter and they roll the ball down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy. It's a little dirty here.
3 different. Yeah. And it's just like once you accept like putting is incredibly hard to like make stuff outside of 4 feet, 5 feet maybe. Like I'll give you that. But even then, it's still like not a gimme. I just think once your expectations get lowered, it's like you almost have the freedom to just like, I'm going to give this a good run. And if it goes in, it does. And I think in that mode you get, and maybe that's what I'm talking about in that birdie mode of just like, it's unlikely, but if you just get out of your way, it's more likely to happen than getting in your way, essentially.
Yeah.
And so
that kind of ties back to something I kind of had started this thought and I fumbled through and I didn't really state it well, but it was back to like the whole like feeling like a fraud or like, am I ever going to do this thing? It sort of ties into that where it's like before you've done anything for the first time, you've never done it.
Never done it. No.
Right? Until you do. Mm-hmm. So if you let that fact that you've never done it define your perspective on it, it's probably more detrimental to your pursuit of trying to do that thing versus if you just,
that's a good point.
If you just focus on doing the thing or like focus on kind of that birdie mentality kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
just the
don't worry about the fact that you've never made 6 birdies in a row. Just try and make 6 birdies in a row. Like,
yeah,
because if you worry about
it's a good point. And
you're not going to do
like,
it.
Yeah. And I got to a point in the second round where I was like, well, okay, I turned in 39. I think that I've got to, I think I got to shoot 1 under here to make the cut. And that was the case. I would have had to have done that. And I didn't score well. I scored, I shot 41 42 on the back, I think, or 41 on the back. I forget what it was, but, or no, I shot 44 on the back. Yeah, absolutely crushed it. But it wasn't because like I was nervous or I wasn't necessarily even hitting the ball poorly. It was like, I got frustrated. Like I got some bad breaks. I got really frustrated. I made like a couple bad decisions that were like bred from me being very frustrated and just kind of disappointed in myself. But like, I do, like, looking back, I have to say that like I liked that feeling of like telling myself, all right, dude, I got to go out and do this if I want to try to do something special. Like I got to just go out and do it. And I needed to be, this needs to be the time that I do it. This needs to be the first time that I go out and shoot 1 under on the back 9 at Emerald Valley, to make the cut. And it really did free up my, just like my thinking a little bit. It freed up, it took a little bit of tension out of stuff, and I hit a really good drive on 10, in that hole. If you've ever played the 10th hole at Emerald Valley, that drive is terrifying. I've never been in the fairway. I've played that course, I'd play that course 5 times leading up to that, that second round. And I've never hit that fairway, and I hit the fairway, and I made a very aggressive swing. I like basically took it down the left tree line, which is flirting with out of bounds. And I knew it was going to cut, and I did it. And I was like really proud of myself. And then I just made a bad call on like what the wind was doing and came up short, and then made a bad chip and made bogey. And that kind of like got in my head. But this idea of like going, I think that's what I need to do. So I think we could probably talk for hours. And I think we probably should have you back on so that we can do that. But I think it's probably good we call it quits here. Kyle, do you have any events coming up in the near future as the season kind of starts to close out?
Let's see. I got the Birdie Juice Cup, which starts tomorrow.
That sounds fun.
That's a skins game, and then it's a Ryder Cup style between Team Black and Team Gray. It's an event that's been going on for like 7 years, and now it's up to I think 52 guys. It's 26 on a team. Some of the swag we're gonna get is awesome. Like I'll
that's the best part.
Pictures of it. Oh my God, they do such a good job. It's like local caterers started it years ago, and it's grown from like 12 guys to now I think it's 52 this year or something like that.
That's so fun.
So I got that this weekend. And then other than my plan is really to take 2 weeks off after this weekend and just take a break. And then I'll have another Ryder Cup, kind of like it's this Alaska State versus the city Ryder Cup. It's called the Cordis Cup. That happens every year. That's super competitive with a lot of good players. And then it's Oregon after that. And I'm looking forward to just like playing golf with my buddies and not like care in essence of like, if I shot an 85, it's not going to matter. Like I'm just there to have a blast.
You're not turning a scorecard in, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We will be turning in a scorecard.
We will be.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has a spreadsheet already.
I already have one, ready to go. We'll play a game each day and all that stuff, but it certainly will be low stress in terms of like no one's going to care. And I just look forward to those kind of trips because that's I think why we play the game at the end of the day is like be with your buddies, play cool courses, and like make a bunch of birdies. Hopefully, just have fun.
Yeah,
that sounds fantastic. Well, best of luck in all of that.
Thank you.
I got a club championship in 2 weeks. I'm playing like a match play thing this weekend, but I got club championship in 2 weeks. And then I'm bouncing out of Persimmon. Sent my email yesterday.
Oh, really? Whoa.
Yeah. And then I have an email because, the membership gal, she was like, can I ask why? And I have like a novel written.
How long do you have?
Oh my God, dude. It's very verbose and it's not particularly nice. Not towards her. I mean, she has nothing to do with it, but it's like everything else that's wrong with that stupid golf course. But, and then, I told Nathan about this, but it was confirmed. I will be going to Landman.
All right. You know what?
Yeah.
Who did you?
What's Landman?
You sent something to somebody in the mail to make somebody sit like. This is
so King Collins.
I'm hanging up. Okay.
King Collins. They're the ones that built Sweetens Cove.
Okay, yeah.
So Landman was their first 18-hole project out in Homer, Nebraska.
It's
very cool golf
Kyle.
course. It's very cool golf course. Been on my list. It's going to be in the top 100.
It's only been open for 2 years.
2 years, yeah. But it'll be in the top 100 golf course in the U.S. here probably in the next 2 years. Very cool course. Well, they close on September 30th for the season because it's Nebraska, and so after that, they have this event called the Cooler, which is like a Ryder Cup style event where it's like, hey, everybody come and clean out the cooler because they're shutting down. And so I got the nod to go and play. And so, we're going to, and I think the way that the travel plans are going to work out, we're going to go a few days early. We're going to fly into Minneapolis and then drive to Sand Valley and play the Lido and then Sand Valley back-to-back days. I don't know. These guys want to do like 36 a day. And then
if you could choose Mammoth Dunes, it's so fun.
Okay.
Sand Valley is
over Sand Valley.
We're only doing
Sand Valley's a great golf course, but it's like it's hard and it's it's kind of a grind. Mammoth Dunes is a blast. Like you will not have a bad.
You'll
day
shoot your best score, probably.
At Mammoth. All right.
Yeah.
So Well, and these guys, like they're like, oh, we're gonna play 36, and then like on our way down, we're gonna stop, play 18, and then we'll play like the afternoon matches when we get to. I'm like, that's a lot. I'm totally in, but like that's a lot. And then and then we play 3 days in at Landman, and then we head out and then drive back to Minneapolis. But if like the text thread that I'm in with these other guys that are going just tells you like how out of my league in terms of like tax bracket I am. They're taking PJs, flying directly to Homer, and and they're like, yeah, you want to go? It's it's $5,000 or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm good, man. I would probably have to walk there before I spent $5,000 on a private jet.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So going to be doing that at the end of September, like first of October. But I think like for me in September, I'm probably not going to play. I'm going to kind of shut it down because I've got weddings and stuff, and I think I need to like take a step back anyway. So it's a good like way to do that, and then I'll have a little end of the season finale. So
I'm playing in 12 tournaments from September to November. So
he's ramping up.
I'm starting.
That's his go time.
Yeah. Season's just started, boys.
They're going to be putt tournaments. Tyler's on the bag for me.
Yeah, just let me know if you need a caddy.
Yeah,
I will not be able to provide any sort of help. All right, guys. Hey, thanks everyone for listening. You've you know the drill. You can find us on Instagram and all that jazz. It's in the show notes. I'm not going to say it. Just click the links. Yeah, we'll have Kyle. Thanks again for coming on. We're gonna have you again because I think we can just talk and nerd out and talk through our feels. This was a great therapy session, and I didn't even have to pay for it. So I appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure. I know we all are on the. I don't know. I feel like we're all just one bad round away from maybe selling the sticks on Marketplace, but you just need some good friends to, bring you back.
Yeah, that's like that Max Homa quote. We're one good swing away then from like trying to get our tour card too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Well, hey,
you guys have a good night.
Thanks again, and thanks everyone for listening. Until next week. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.